Well, I'll tell you who you look a lot better than right now, the Carolina Panthers, as they have, after two games, benched Bryce Young, the former #1 overall pick that we know they traded a lot of assets to go up and get. Andy Dalton will start. Dave Canales, when speaking on this, said, I don't want to get into timelines. I just know Andy gives us our best chance to win right now. Simple as that.
So, all right, a couple of things here. First off, and I might be biased, but I've met Bryce Young twice in my life, and could not be a nicer kid. Could not be a nicer kid. And by the way, I mentioned that my son was going to go to this is 2 years ago when Bryce was a rookie going in at the NFLPA rookie premiere, and I interviewed him. And when I was done with the interview, I mentioned, oh, by the way, my kid is going to be a freshman at Alabama. And he immediately said, let's do a video. And he did a little video welcoming my son to Alabama, Roll Tide. Anyway, just a great kid. So I feel on a personal level, I would just say I feel terrible for Bryce Young, who I think was put in an impossible situation. He was given absolutely no help at all in his first year at Carolina. They've tried to help him out somewhat here in year two, but there's so much expectation, and I think this is no fault of Bryce Young's. But again, the success of C.J. Stroud and the fact that they were basically 1-2, and Stroud, honestly, obviously a lot, I think, better weapons around him, better coaching around him as well. C.J. Stroud obviously might be a much better player, but I don't know that Bryce Young ever got a fair shot. And I feel like, Connor, this is similar to, again, I don't know if Zach Wilson ever would have been a great NFL quarterback, but I don't think Zach Wilson ever got a fair shot. We're seeing with Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold got a fair shot, and now finally in Minnesota on a good team with a good coach, we're seeing actually he might play. Yeah. So I feel, we're going to talk about Andy Dalton in a second, but I just want to say, do you feel like Bryce Young's NFL career is over as a starting quarterback in the NFL?
He'll get another look somewhere, and it just depends. I mean, look at what happened with Baker Mayfield, and this does happen. He'll get another look, especially a #1 overall pick. There will always be another coach that says, hey, maybe things will be different here in our environment. What happened with Bryce Young to me is this was a really talented player that was thrusted into a situation right now where, like you said, Matthew, there was no positive outcomes as a rookie. He developed bad habits. He lost all confidence. This year, personally, the situation looks a lot better. The pass protection is better. The talent around him is better. Those bad habits have not left him. He has no confidence. He's not playing well. This is an early plug, which tells me Canales had a lot of fear of losing the locker room. Yeah. They felt like if they went out there every Sunday with him, they did not have a chance to win, and they weren't going to wait it out any longer, which is unfortunate for him. The talent is still in there somewhere, but the confidence is completely gone.
Yeah. You know what the most concerning thing to me is the least pressured quarterback on Sunday was Bryce Young. He wasn't under pressure. It was all it just seems like he has the yips. It feels like, mentioned before, it's like Chuck Knobloch throwing to first base. It's all just broken. Like the brain just doesn't work.
It's the Zach Wilson seeing ghosts. It's the Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Sam Darnold was the seeing ghost. Right. But it's the same thing with, I feel like that's the case here. I do think a fresh start would do well. I mean, listen, they played the Saints and the Chargers, who I think at the end of the year we're going to look at as two of the better defenses in the NFL. So, the Saints also made Dak Prescott look not great. So, I mean, I don't want to go too far in terms of, but I think this was the right move for both Bryce Young's psyche. I do think he will get another shot. He should go to another organization. Again, we've seen former Panther quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield have success this year. So, just getting out of the environment will be helpful. This is a good news, but for fantasy managers, this is actually awesome because Andy Dalton is, and I say this with literally, as a respectful thing, not as an insult, is a professional quarterback. Is he great? No. But can he get the ball to Deontay Johnson? Yes, he can. Does he potentially give a chance to Xavier Leggett to become something? Yes, he does. When this offense gets Jonathan Brooks back, suddenly this becomes interesting as well. Chuba Hubbard might find some more open running lanes. It's worth noting, last year, week 3 at Seattle, the only time Andy Dalton has started for the Panthers, obviously different coaching staff, different offense, but still, that one game, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 23.5 fantasy points. I mean, Andy Dalton had so I do think that if you have shares of Deontay Johnson, and I have a lot of them, if you took a flyer on Xavier Leggett, I do think he's going to bring a level of professionalism to this offense.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. The Jonathan Brooks point is really interesting because he could be somebody that you've been stashing for a while, and now this gives him more upside. Going into an offense that might be able to run the ball a little bit more. Obviously, Dalton will be able to check the ball down a little bit more confidently.
Just more sustained drives. You know what I mean? Coach Canales is right, is that at the moment, unfortunately, Andy Dalton gives them the best chance to win, right? He can't lose the locker room, you know what I mean? And honestly, as I'm sure this is a tough day for Bryce Young, but I do genuinely think ultimately this is the best thing for him. He needs to get out of Carolina. But I think if he just kept staying out there and just getting his ass kicked and just not doing anything, he's completely lost.
Let's jump into all the injuries that we discussed at the top of the show. Right now, everybody hurts, right? Look at the Monday injury updates. Cooper Kupp with the ankle, he will miss an extended period of time. Deebo Samuel will miss a few weeks with the calf injury.
Ugh.
A.J. Brown expected to miss multiple weeks with the hamstring. We talked about Isaiah Pacheco yesterday. He's expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. He fractured his fibula. Joe Mixon had an MRI yesterday for his ankle. We'll wait more news officially on that. Tua Tagovailoa, not enough information is what we were given to decide if he'll go on IR yet with the concussion. So wait and see with that, which seems pretty crazy to me at the time, but that's where it stands. And Evan Ingram is week to week with the hamstring injury. I mean, this is just a wild graphic to look at.
Yeah. And so, me asking yesterday on Twitter, is today the worst day in fantasy football history? Or, because there was a list, I was quote tweeting Adam Schefter, who had made a list of all the injured players that we just talked about there, with the possible exception of Joe Mixon, of Joe Mixon, and maybe Evan Ingram. None of these guys are playing next week. There's different severities of their injury history, but I mean,
tough one for Coach Pierce right here.
Yeah.
As you see, he's lost Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, and Isaiah Pacheco. He said, "What's the remedy for this?"
Yeah, I mean that is
everybody drinks free here at the happy hour.
That's why everyone drinks free. It's very possible the way drafts went that you could have drafted Pacheco, or AJ. You could have been at the end of the turn, and you could have taken Pacheco and AJ Brown at the end of the first. Cooper Kupp lasted into into the third. You could have gotten Kupp and Mixon the way some drafts went, because Mixon was basically going in the late third to the fourth.
Like his team, Kupp and McCaffrey.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, so you easily could have had Mixon, Pacheco, Kupp, and AJ Brown, or Deebo. Deebo was going around the same area that Mixon was. So I just feel for you. Tua's definitely not going to play this week. Evan Ingram, we'll see. I think of all the players on that list, I feel like there's at least some optimism for Joe Mixon that he potentially could play this week. We don't know yet.
Yeah, news dropped very late last night. MRI came back clean, but so it's considered not long-term or serious. Now that may mean he'll still miss a week. I think it's a red flag that he came back in, didn't have any bursts, and they took him out when they needed to kind of salt away the game at the end, and he wasn't out there. It was Cam Akers fumbling at the goal line. So some concern about
My parlay
Mixon.
was well aware. My best bet, well aware of Joe Mixon missing the entire second half. Very bitter.
Yeah, so it looks like it'd be okay for Mixon long term, but we'll see this week.
We will see. There's a chance he might, and so we're going to talk about those running back waivers. But definitely, you are going to be without Kupp, Samuel Brown, and Pacheco for quite a while. Tua, it feels like a decent amount of time as well. Sorry, just spam calling my phone. I don't know. It's unbelievable.
Pick it up, see what happens.
Yeah, I really
Put
should.
him on the show.
I should.
Hey, you're on Fantasy Football Happy Hour. What do you have to say? This is your one moment right here.
Should I?
Yeah, do it.
Hello? Hello?
You're on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour.
Yeah, what's going on? What?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, one more time.
I'm sorry.
What are you calling about? Yeah, what are you calling about?
Oh, dear.
She hung up.
Hung up on you.
She hung up on me.
That's pretty odd.
Yeah, we're
That's
going to do
strange.
it. All right, there you go.
You scared them off.
Do you guys get spam calls? I get spam calls
Non-stop.
all the time.
Nonstop.
All the time.
I just block it after
Yeah,
every
same
time.
of
course.
Doesn't do anything.
I really like America. A lot of strengths about this country. That doesn't happen in Australia. We don't get the spam calls in Australia.
Yeah,
We have some flaws.
yeah, exactly. They're respectful in Australia, for the love of God. Well, it's really only your family and the Hemsworths, as I understand. That's the only people that live there. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.